So right off the bat, this video isn't gonna be like super exciting or anything, no fancy b-roll, just a conversation about something that I think might help a few people out there. Might throw some Subway Surfers up in a corner so that you've got something to look at. But in this video, I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for a while, which is why I decided to make the switch from being a full-time video editor to more of like a full-on filmmaking role. And on top of that, I wanted to chat a bit about why I think that for a lot of video editors out there, this might be a good idea to consider. So like I've said a few times before, for the past few years, I've been working a lot more on full filmmaking projects, and I've been turning down almost all of the editing only requests coming my way. I think that the main thing that pushed me to make the switch was the fact that for years I would constantly feel like I could contribute way more to the production process than just editing what was given to me. And not only that, but there were a lot of times when I was given footage that was just like objectively bad and I was expected to make something great out of it. But when things obviously didn't work out how the client imagined, a lot of the blame would fall on me because I'm the editor. I'm supposed to know how to handle these things, right? So I guess you could say that subconsciously I wanted to have more control over the project so that I could make sure things actually went smoothly. And I think I saw solo filmmaking as the best way to try and see if that was even possible. Now, like I said, I think that a change of pace like this might be the right call for other editors out there as well, and there are a few reasons for why I think that. First up is that as an editor, you've got a very unique perspective on a bunch of the different parts of the creative process outside of just cutting footage together, and this might be something that not a lot of you have even considered. But if you think about it, as an editor, you need to have a very good understanding of storytelling, which is something that can translate well into things like screenwriting or directing, where that ability to tell like a compelling story is really important. You also need to have great attention to detail when it comes to things like framing, composition, and just like overall visual aesthetics, which are all things that you need to pay attention to if you're a cinematographer. Usually, as an editor, you get to work with a bunch of different footage shot with different cameras, and you should have a decent understanding of the settings that were used when filming, and that's something that can translate really well into being like a camera assistant. So yeah, in general, I'm trying to say that you probably already have some really important skills that can translate into filmmaking without even realizing it. And a lot of the other reasons that we'll talk about kind of tie back into this one. Another reason to try filmmaking as an editor is that it gives you a lot more creative freedom. Like, editing is obviously a huge part of filmmaking, but it's still just one piece of like the bigger thing. As a filmmaker, you have the freedom to shape every aspect of your project, from screenwriting to directing to cinematography and post-production. And since you understand the power of stuff like sequencing and pacing, making that transition to filmmaking allows you to like fully control the storytelling process from start to finish. And having this much creative control can be really satisfying, and it can help you to bring your own vision to life instead of always working on someone else's. One more reason is that filmmaking allows you to learn new skills, and on top of that, explore different roles that you might find you enjoy more. By going into filmmaking, you can get hands-on experience in stuff like cinematography, directing actors, and even stuff like managing budgets. And all of those things can be super useful to you down the line, regardless if you go back to being strictly a video editor or if you decide to pick up another role. Speaking of which, you might also find out that there's a job on set that clicks with you way better than editing does, and that's kind of what it was like for me. Like, don't get me wrong, I still have to do a lot of video editing for the type of projects that I work on, and it's not like I hate it, but I've also really been enjoying the process of learning new things about lighting and trying to improve my cinematography. So what I'm trying to say is that you might realize there's a different path you want to go down that you never realized until you actually gave filmmaking a shot. One more very important reason is that as an editor, understanding other parts of the process makes you a way more valuable team member for literally any production. As an editor, you might find yourself working closely with directors, producers, cinematographers, and other team members, and if you've already had the opportunity to try filling any of those roles for yourself, when you go back to your position as an editor, you'll have a much easier time communicating with any of those crew members. Let me put it this way. If I get hired only to film something, being able to have a conversation with the editor who's gonna be working with my footage later so that we can figure out how everything is gonna cut together and what settings I should be using can be super useful to me. But in order for that to happen, the editor needs to also understand what my role requires. And the best way for that to happen is if they already have some experience doing what I'm doing. Not sure if this is making sense, but what I'm trying to say is that trying out different filmmaking roles as an editor will help you down the line when you need to communicate with other crew members to make sure that you're all on the same page about how things are supposed to go in post. Finally, I want to say that I'm not trying to convince you that this is going to be the right move for everyone. This is more like advice for those people who have been working as editors for a while and have always kind of felt like they need a change of pace, kind of like me a few years ago. Obviously, if you've never been in that type of situation and you enjoy being strictly a video editor, then by all means, keep doing what you love. But if you've ever experienced that little bit of uncertainty about what it might be like having a different role in the production process, then maybe it's time that you give it a shot and find out. At the end of the day, if you find out it's not for you, at least you know that choosing to be an editor as a career path was right for you and you don't have to think about what if anymore. So I really hope that you were able to take something away from this video. If you're someone who's been on the fence about making the switch from video editing to filmmaking, I genuinely hope that I was able to give you that last little bit of motivation to go out and try it. As always, thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one.